September meeting of the Board of Water Commissioners is called to order. Reading of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Presentation of bills and accounts.
I'll move we accept the bills and accounts as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. COVID-19.
Just a quick update. We're doing really well. Everybody's healthy and back working. We've noticed a little lower foot traffic in the office. Matt's tracking that. We're still taking in water samples here at a pretty good clip, but most of our walk-ins were seniors, and you know they're staying home. And we've seen an uptick in payments by credit card and an uptick in ACH payments, and we think mail is still coming in, you know, as well as it ever did. So we think we're doing okay. At the treatment plant, the air conditioning has finally been installed with the UV and the filtration system. It works really well. It's very comfortable in there. It's quiet. We moved one of the chief operator's office out there. So we've gotten a little more separation in the plant, so that's good. And later this month, we're going to hold an in-person lab class out there on 2 classes back-to-back on the 22nd and 23rd. We normally have 20 people in this class. It's limited to 10 and 10. We're 9 of those 20 seats, our own people. And this class is mandatory for a condition of our license renewals. So, and there has to be an in-person demonstration of competence in these tests. So that's the good news, and the air conditioning system really helped us be able to host that. The good news is Andrew and Derek will be also qualified to be able to teach that class moving forward. So
who teaches that now?
right now we're working through New York State AWWA. We're one of their training sites, and so they have an instructor. It's Tom Clark. He's retired from the Monroe County Water Authority. He just comes down and he'll teach it, but Andrew and Derek are going to shadow him and kind of work with him through this class so that in the future they'll be able to teach it. So that's good for us all around. We have forms we have to, legal forms that we have to sign. You know, we're taking everybody's temperatures. They come in, and everybody gets a boxed lunch. Has to eat it at their own little table by themselves and all that kind of stuff. So we're doing okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to Bill and I have discussed this pretty thoroughly. There's nothing that you need to do on this because we're not in violation, but I wanted you to be aware of new legislation that was signed by the governor that makes it illegal for any utility to terminate service for non-payment during the COVID crisis and extends it for 180 days after the emergency is lifted. I only mention this because some of the environmental activist groups are really focused on the water industry and, you know, want accountability and plans. And, you know, we've never shut off for non-payment in our 125-year history. Bill's reviewed the legislation. I've read it over. And I really don't think there's anything further we need to do because we're not shutting anybody off for non-payment. So, and just kind of pushing that a little bit further, there's a little known part of the Ulster County Sanitary Code, Article 8.21, which prohibits any landlord from terminating the water service to any tenant-owned property. And we will, I think, down the road, get some requests from landlords to turn off the water, to force tenants out. And, you know, fool me once, and they did fool us probably 25 years ago. And since then, anybody requesting water shut off, other than through a property sale, they have to certify to us signing an affidavit that there's nobody living in the house. So
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, I mean, all our non-payments go on the taxpayers anyway,
Right.
so
Right.
it's not like we're losing anything.
We will shut off for a health code violation, and that's, I mean, I can't remember when that happened the last time. So, but our code is very specific, our regulations, and we just don't shut off for non-payment. So most municipal water supplies don't.
Cooper Lake improvements.
Last month I mentioned that we had received a notice from DEC of incomplete permit application. That issue has since been resolved. We had a conference call shortly after our last meeting. And during seeker, you can't split a project into smaller component parts. That's called bifurcation, and it's strictly, the law doesn't allow you to do that. And so when we did our seeker process, we considered both the Ashokan component, the water supply, the new intake structure, as well as the remediation in a complete project. And they have since, DEC has since said that they are in agreement with our determination, and we have nothing further to do on seeker. So that was good news. But we submitted our permit application to the DEC for this project as a single permit application. They don't want us to do that. They want us to split it up into its component parts, which we're more than happy to do. It just was a little confusing to us at first. So the good news is Cooper Lake portion has been resubmitted. The Ashokan piece is in the works. The holdup in resubmitting it is we're waiting. DEP as the landowner for a portion of that project has to sign off as the landowner. And they've identified the person that will sign it. We just haven't been able to get them to do it yet. And so once that's done, it'll go in. Army Corps of Engineers has by default signed off on it. So we're just waiting on the DEC. So that's where we are with that. And I was mentioning to Dennis that Monday, Freeman had an article, Monday's Freeman, on Senators Schumer and Gillibrand wanting to ask questions of the Army Corps about New York State dam safety. So I think I want to take this opportunity to maybe reach out to both of them and see if they'll, kind of describe where we are with Cooper Lake and what the impact is going to be on our ratepayers, and see if maybe they also want to, help us with some funding. So it's a shot. They open the door crack, and we'll see if we can stick our foot in it.
The water that you're going to take from the West Basin,
Yeah.
in that one area, looking at the reservoir, the level is down. In that one section you want to draw from, that's kind of dead water.
Right, and that's why the design calls for a floating barge, so we can reposition the barge wherever the water is.
Oh, good.
So that it's not, you're right. If it was a stationary pump on the land,
Yeah.
we'd have to keep extending, the pipe out to chase the water as the water recedes. And you're right, that is kind of a stagnant area. So we're going to use the Hurley, not the West Hurley Dike, but the Hurley Dike there, and go off the Hurley side and use a floating barge.
Good.
So that floating barge, though, will be only installed if there's a need for it.
Correct. And you can rent those. I mean, who knew what you could rent? But that would be put into the we'll get a cost for that work, as well as installation of the temporary pipes. And that would be included in the Cooper Lake contractor's contract as an item that would only be called upon if we had that situation and we were going to lay those pipes.
Okay, so there's nothing more in regards to plans, wherever
CDM Smith and in conjunction with Schnabel, our principal engineer there, they're drawing up the bid documents. Once I have at least an outline of the bid documents or a rough draft, then we can look at the project labor agreement and have somebody look at that for us. But until I have bid specs and kind of semi-official contract documents, I don't know what to, there's nothing for them to review.
Okay. Moving on, transmission main rehab project.
Thank God, it's almost done. It's the project, if anything here kills me, that's gonna be it. We're at substantial completion. They're working on grading, site restoration, and punch list items. And there isn't a very long list of punch list items. One of the punch list items that we insisted on was that they reseed Town of Kingston Town Hall lawn. They did a really nasty job at the wrong time of the year. It's all spotty. And one of the things we insisted on is that they hydro seed it. And they're gonna do that in the next couple of weeks, so.
So all the valves are now installed, everything's functioning?
It's sweet, yes, we have 2 new pipes, two influence, 2 effluents, 5 connections, two from the lines coming from the plant to that area and 3 going into town, and valves that all work. It's kind of a new experience. It's pretty cool. This is a pretty challenging project in terms of, we having to rely on 100-year-old valves. The guys really went above and beyond, and the valves all, now they're just, you can turn them like this. It's kind of neat.
But it's manual?
It's manual now, but at the second phase of the WEED 2020, the next thing on the agenda, one of the components of that is to electrify those valves. And in fact, that was deleted from this current contract. Because it was originally put in there, we saw how far the money went and certain things had to go. But the one thing we left in there was, and they were doing this yesterday, was they laid the conduit from the pole to the valve chambers, so that with a string, so we can just pull the electrical conduit in the next phase. So that was good to see them do that.
So are you switching back and forth, or what are you using in regards to which?
No.
Are you keeping them all in operation?
Yes, that's the idea, to keep them all in operation. We have reason to believe or suspect that there may be a joint on the old influent valve that opened up, because there's water now running across Bob Charlton's driveway there, our next door neighbor across from there. And it's certainly plausible. You had, 1927 air joints, they're leadite, they're very fragile. And even though we monitored for vibration during the installation of the new pipes, it's plausible something happened. So we have money in the budget to do leak detection every year. We put about $25,000 in there to do that. So we thought this year, instead of doing another section of the distribution system, we'd hold that off for a year, and we'd bring in New York leak detection. And in fact, they're here now. That's where I was all day. They're looking at the checking the mains for leaks in bay water. We're hoping we have a discrete leak that we can fix. He's got the traffic on Sawkill Road is pretty intense, so the technician's gonna come in about 5 o'clock this morning and listen again. We also, as another part of this project that we were funded for, this WEED 2017 project that we did, it was for valves, which we did, the transmission mains up and down the hill on the tie-ins, which we just completed. And there's a third phase. The third phase was the transmission main above the plant from Reservoir 1 down broke in 2015, and we repaired it, but we were never able to pass enough water through there. We knew there was another leak, we just could never find it. So we're up there today looking for that, and we think we found it. And the idea would be that we would probably have $350,000, $400,000 left in the grant to be able to bring in a contractor and fix those leaks for that kind of money. And so we're working with them. So we won't be doing any distribution leak detection this year. But we also have a leak behind Sweet Meadows on an 18-inch main that we've known about. And it's just a challenge to get to it. And today he pinpointed it for us. We sort of knew where it was. And it's only about a 10,000 gallon a day leak, which as leaks go is not terrible. So, we'll be able to get that one fixed as well, so.
And if there's money left over?
Well, we're trying to fast push this ahead. Because the state, and Matt can probably talk in a little more detail about this, that money's gonna disappear if we don't use it soon.
Well, that's one of my concerns. This is other projects that kind of fit into the application to make sure that we don't lose it. We had the money in the budget to do the leak detection, and I said, let's just use it. It's in the budget, and
you know, he's here, was here yesterday, today, and he's gonna be here all week. We're fortunate that the technician, the company's based out of Syracuse, but the technician lives in Saugerties.
Oh, okay.
So we worked with him in the past.
But the leak detection money that we're paying.
We're paying that out.
It comes out of our operation fund.
Right, and we can make a decision to reimburse ourselves later on,
Okay.
but CDM has committed to getting design plans done by October. And with the work we're doing today, we'll be able to do that, and then.
Design plans for the repair of the transmission line?
Yes, for that main, that 18-inch main. And so we're.
And the plans, you just can't go in
That's why you need to do anything with the state.
okay.
You're gonna need some kind of plan. You're gonna need a PE stamp on it, and that's okay, but they're gonna be, it's not rocket science. It's not a complicated design project. They're just gonna, and we'll have to, so that's all being done to try to fast track that to preserve that money.
It just drives me crazy how much money we pay in engineering. Nothing to you, Jim, but
No, there's some.
I'd rather use some of that engineering to actually fix the.
Yeah, no, I
Problem.
agree with you, but it is the way it is. It's just, you know, there's not much we can do about it.
Okay.
So we were up there in the woods today. The bugs were horrendous. I was almost wishing that we still had someone on our crew that smoked. Because when you're in the woods with a smoker, you don't get bit. But thank God nobody smokes. So.
Okay, we got 2020.
Well, there's one more thing on that item. I skipped around a little bit, and we have a change order that I sent you.
Oh, right.
I sent you a detailed little memo on what that change order was, and for that, and I'll need a motion if you're so inclined to approve that. Just to kind of, it was for $48,453.31, and it was for the installation of concrete thrust blocks. They weren't originally in the design documents, and one of the pipes blew apart just as we were re-energizing and filling it with water. And the engineer recognized that, in fact, there should have been thrust blocks there. So, no, and the change orders, I don't like this many change orders, to be perfectly honest. And I kind of outlined there briefly why this might be an exception. You know, we haven't done too many recent capital projects where everything's been buried before we went to bid. So we encountered some things that were, you know, unknown. And, you know, there's almost 16% change orders on this project. But of those, more than half, 8, were things that we saw and identified that would make the infrastructure better and make the system better. And they weren't really related to construction. So of that 15.6%, a little over 8% were at our request, and the remaining, about 7.5%, for a project like this, that's not outrageous. More than I'd ever like to see, but.
I'll make a motion
Thank you.
to accept the change order number 16 for the amount of $48,453.31.
I'll second that.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Now we can move on to, we had 2020 then?
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about that with, this is a total of $1.5 million project. 60% of that, or $900,000, is going to come from a state grant. It's going to be 3 smaller projects. That one is to actuate those valves and to make some further improvements in the SCADA system. And then the last piece would be to put some much needed valves in the distribution system, so we can you know, have some positive control over the flow through our transmission mains. So 900 is from a grant and 600 would come from a low interest loan through EFC.
So 900 is a grant.
Yep.
And 600 is gonna be,
A low interest loan. Which are, you know, typically 1.5%, sometimes 2% over market, lower than market. So over the life of the loan, it's a pretty significant savings. You know, this project, this Finney Water project has really consumed staff time in a good way. But, you know, Ryan and his folks, and we're interrupting plant operations, so we've all been, for the past month, I mean, I haven't been in the office a whole lot because we've been out standing by the side of the thruway or, you know, someplace else. So we haven't really had a lot of time to work with Laura and CDM on getting this project moving this 2020. And I know I owe her some time, and so we're gonna push that.
what were the other projects besides the electrifying the?
Electrifying, actuating some of those valves and tying them into SCADA. And then there's a couple of pieces of SCADA that we kind of either didn't plan on or overlooked. So there's a couple minor improvements there, and then the balance of the money would go for those insertion valves on the transmission main in town.
Okay. So what we're waiting for is plans to be put together, and we have to.
I have a budget, I have a breakdown in the budget. I want to talk to Laura about taking some money out of some of the SCADA things. You know, when the staff tells you that they like to be able to do this, this, and this, well, that's nice, but we really need those valves more. I want to shift the balance of that breakdown of that money a little bit with them, so we can get as many valves as we can out of this. SCADA system is pretty robust as it is. I mean, I think we have a pretty good product.
Okay. Brewery Street.
I have a meeting on Tuesday with the school district, with Tom Clapper of the school district, and Dennis. We're going to meet up in their office. The school district reached out to us, as I think I mentioned last month, that they would be interested in, at the same time that we're doing the main work, putting in the new main, they'd be interested in replacing their supply line to Bailey. You know, where that stands with the reduction in school funding, how that impacts their capital projects budget that also have to come through the Department of Education, I don't know. But I'm sure we're going to find out on Tuesday.
The Roundabout.
No news is good news. They're working and they haven't called us in a long time.
When we had that problem where they caused something to break and we had to flush the system.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way that we can back charge them for all our overtime and other staff time?
I'm sure we could, but I'm sure we could. I can look into it. I don't know how much money that involves, but we'd have to go back and look. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I know.
I mean, they caused the problem of which we had to spend money for overtime and other things for a problem they caused.
Right.
They should be liable for that.
Right.
There should be a mechanism to get money out of the project. I mean, chances are they'll probably go ahead and just tack it back onto the water end of it.
I was just going to say, somehow we're going to get back charged for that somehow. But yeah, I'll talk to Tim up there and ask him, you know, Matt and I will look at, you know, he'll look and tell me how much money that involves. So.
Yeah, just keep a track. I don't know how much other times we have to, I mean, there's routine stuff that we expect to pay for.
Oh, yeah.
But when they cause a water main break, of which we have to send staff out that was their fault, I don't think we should be paying for that.
Right, no. But.
Okay. Tech City.
I reached out to Dennis Doyle. He asked us, about their fire flows in their Bank of America buildings that the county has. He said they were looking at options. They get back to me, and I'm still waiting. So we get calls periodically from their buildings and construction folks. But like any other building owner, they'll have to figure out how to get the water to the top floor in their sprinkler system. It's, that's not what any water utility does. I mean,
Right.
street pressure will get the water up to the top of the city hall in the sprinkler system. They had to develop their own pressure.
Booster pumps.
Same thing in the county building. I mean, that's just the nature of the system. So I'm assuming they are pursuing their options.
We'll wait and see then.
So, yeah.
Auction for the 2007 Jeep.
Take it away, Matt.
All right, so we had purchased a new vehicle this year and we put up the 07 Jeep on Auction International and it closed at $4,100. So 100,000 miles on it, it's 13 years old. That's what we got.
It was always in the shop. Always in the shop.
Yes,
I
the
mean,
last 2 years we spent.
So is there a need for a motion?
yes, there is.
Okay, so we need a motion to accept.
Make a motion, we accept the bill.
Have a
I'll second it.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Correspondence. I guess we have one from
We have a letter.
Sue Lichtenberg, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, we bill, who do we bill?
On this, we bill
Her.
her.
She hands the bill to her tenant, which is her prerogative as a
Right.
landlord. It's none of our business.
And who do we get payment from? From her? Or does the tenant come in and pay?
Like many landlords, we'll accept anybody's check.
Okay.
And so the tenant, her previous tenant, I mean, Jane had a relationship with this woman because the woman would always come in and chat with Jane when she paid her bill.
Yeah, she'd bring in the bill that was sent to Sue, and she would say, I'm paying
Yeah,
the bill, and here's.
yes. And so she paid the bill. Her current tenant, and we knew that woman moved out because she told us so. I'm moving out. She didn't say anything bad. She just was moving out. Current tenant, I guess, is not paying the rent, and I don't know the reason. She doesn't suggest that the reason is due to COVID.
Okay.
She's never alleged that, I don't believe.
Well, yeah, sometimes.
I know we had a water main break in front of this property 2 years ago. I had no idea it was around the property. What I noted about the house was it had a really nice terraced, it's got a steep front yard, very nicely terraced, well manicured, and really nice flowers. I just, for the heck of it, I rode by the other day, and there's windows out of it. The grass is taller than I am. So I don't know how, I know they obviously have a tenant that they need to get rid of, and right now, because of the circumstances we're in, she can't do it. And I know that's really, I guess you talked to Matt, she talked to Jane, and that's kind of her underlying anger,
Yes.
that she would love to get rid of this guy, and she can't.
So is she looking for us to do what then again?
Well, I mean, her complaint was she has a bill that is overdue, and from the second quarter of 2020, and both Matt and Jane told her, well, there's no penalty on that because the board waived the penalty on that quarter.
But the bill itself, that was for the bill for 102.91?
Yeah, and that I don't believe that's been paid yet.
Still hasn't been paid.
I don't believe so. But it's her right to let it go over on her taxes. I mean,
Right.
that's the way the system works. She has a current bill for the third quarter.
That was 73.
Yeah, and that's not due till later, so she asked Matt to preemptively ask you to waive the penalties, because it's just not fair if she can't throw him out and he's not paying the bill.
Well, she can pay the bill, right?
It's a business. I will tell you that, and I talked to Matt and Jane, and they pay attention to this. we haven't had anybody ask us to waive or make any complaints about waiving the penalty since March.
My first one.
Right, and the people that took advantage of that no penalty period that we gave them, they were not our mom and pop landlords or owner occupieds. They were largely our institutional apartment owners, our commercial apartment owners. Dutch Village, Stony Run, all of those, they took advantage of that. And it was there for them to take advantage of it, it was fine. But it wasn't, I think the board's intention was to give relief to the folks that were adversely impacted by this. And I don't think that's who ended up taking advantage of it.
And she's looking just to do something because she doesn't want to pay.
Well, and she, she's asking for $7.40 to be waived for everybody, so. Anyway,
Do you need anything from us other than direction that we need to deny her request? Is that what it,
that's fine, and that's.
do you need a motion to do that? Bill?
Good idea.
I mean, is there any other discussion about this from the board members? If not, I'll entertain a motion to deny her request.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Okay. Those in favor?
All right.
Opposed? Okay, carried, thank you.
Mayor, it looks like you're gonna make your other meeting.
Could I just make a quick note about if there's anyone out there that knows anyone that would like to serve on the board? We did put a Facebook posting up both on the city website, and I know the water department did as well. Thank you. We didn't get any applicants through that process, and so we're going to do that again this week. But if you know of anyone, please let us know. The boards and commission application is available on the front page of the city website under boards and commissions. And, we're looking for 2 individuals. And so we'd like to get some additional members on the board. And so, again, spread the word, tell your friends. But again, we're going to do some more posting this week about it.
I mean, and just to, it's really, I mean, it's not a, we don't grab a lot of headlines. It's not a sexy board that, we have here, but, you can't do anything if you don't have a good water supply. And there's a lot of things on our docket coming up that's really going to set the stage for the future of the city. And it's kind of important work, and it's kind of, I mean, I don't know, I think it's rewarding work, or you guys all wouldn't be here for so long, because the pay isn't great. I mean, there's no compensation, but it's, and the only requirement, as I know it in the charter, is you have to live in the city of Kingston. So.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Hopefully.
I reposted that yesterday on ours, so
Take the trees, I guess.
that'd be nice.
Superintendent's report.
Any questions, comments? Otherwise, entertain a motion to accept.
Motion, we accept the
And I'll second it.
report.
Okay, those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? And carried. Got quite a bit of rain now, huh? In month of.
We're down, I was talking to Derek today, we're down 4 feet. The storm in the beginning of August really, we're doing pretty well. We're down 4 feet, which is just about a foot lower than we should be this time of year. The biggest issue we have up there are trespassers. And Woodstock Police Department has done a phenomenal job of patrolling up there and helping us. We put some chains up and because people were driving right in past the house, ready to go.
Oh, okay.
Neighbors are good. They're calling us, hey, there's a bonfire, I mean, it's really, people are swimming. People should understand sound carries across the lake. So if you're swimming, and we're on the clear across the lake, we can hear you, and with binoculars, we can see you. Be careful what you do. That's enough about that. And Woodstock's been really good, and the officer that I spoke to this morning said they're all from Brooklyn. And that with Big Deep closed by the town for good reasons for COVID, they're just going any place they can, and Cooper Lake's very inviting, which it is. So staff, I've warned the staff, ask people politely to leave, but you're not a police officer. You're up here largely by yourself, and be very polite, and if people don't, then get on the radio and call the police. Yeah, so they've been pretty good.
Okay. Anything for executive session?
No, sir.
All right.
Got a full staff, everybody's doing good.
All right. So if there's no other business, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn the meeting.